The whole house seemed to watch Daniel as he walked through the corridors lined with antique gold. The wedding had ended just hours before, but the silence that filled the mansion was so thick it felt alive. The bride's veil, long, heavy, almost funereal, still floated in his mind like a mist that refused to dissipate. Jessie, his new wife, had gone up to the room moments before, saying almost nothing. She always spoke little, always hidden, always covered. Daniel, still with his tie knotted tight, felt the cold sweat on his hands. Each servant who passed him kept their head down, as if avoiding looking directly into his eyes, or as if afraid he would ask something. No one dared answer. When he reached the top of the stairs, he heard the bedroom door creak. A dry, slow, calculated sound. "Jessie," he called, trying to sound calm. No answer. The light in the hallway flickered, as if the mansion were breathing. He slowly approached the half-open door. The room was gigantic, lit only by an old, flickering chandelier. The veil lay spread across the bed, as if someone had hastily ripped it off. But Jessie wasn't there. A soft murmur came from the balcony. Not when dashed footsteps dragging. Daniel stepped forward, feeling his heart pound against his chest. Opening the heavy curtain, he found Jessie with her back to him, facing the dark garden. But now, without the veil, and without hiding what lay behind it, the skin on the back of her neck didn't seem human. It was wrinkled, undulating, like melted fabric. He held his breath. Something was moving beneath the skin. "I knew you'd come," she said, without turning around, her voice echoing as if from afar. "Jessie, what's happening?" Daniel almost whispered. She turned slowly, and then he saw. Half of her face still resembled the elderly, wealthy, and elegant woman everyone knew. The other half was something else entirely. Pulled, twisted flesh, visible bone, as if time had devoured her from one side only. A dark, deep eye seemed to watch Daniel as if it could see his soul being ripped away. "You shouldn't have taken off the veil," he stammered. Jessie smiled, or tried to. The smile was crooked, broken. "I only wear it for the outside world. But you," she stepped forward, "you are mine now." Daniel stumbled back. "What did you do to your husband?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why are you like this?" She tilted her head, like a bird studying its prey. "My husband, he tried to leave me." She paused, her contorted fingers touching the glass wall. "And when someone tries to leave a woman like me, I let him stay with me forever." The wind blew, and Daniel finally realized what was in the garden. Silhouettes, many, buried standing upright, like statues. Mummified faces emerged from the earth, dozens of men, of different ages. Some young, some old, all with frozen expressions of pure terror. The garden floor was a graveyard of husbands. Daniel staggered, his breath failing. "You chose me because you have no one." Jessie moved closer. "No one to miss you. No one to ask questions. You were perfect." Her hand cold, the form touched his chin. "And now," she murmured, "now you will be mine forever too." He tried to run, but the door behind him slammed shut on its own, like a hammer blow. The window panes cracked. Lights went out. The air became thick, suffocating. "It won't do any good," she whispered. "The house obeys me. The land obeys me. My husbands obey me." The silhouettes in the garden began to move slowly, like bodies awakening after decades. Daniel shouted. The whole house seemed to smile. Darkness took everything. A month later, the townsfolk whispered about the strange things happening at the Montclair estate. Rumors circulated about Daniel's sudden disappearance, but Jessie, now appearing oddly rejuvenated and always veiled, dismissed them with a casual wave. "He needed to travel," she'd say, her voice smoother than anyone remembered. "Young men are so restless." But the whispers didn't stop. They grew. People spoke of a new gardener at the mansion, a man who never spoke and whose face was always hidden by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. He moved with a strange, stiff gait, his eyes fixed on the ground, tending to the eerily still garden. This gardener, they said, seemed unnervingly familiar, with a build just like Daniel's. One evening, a curious teenager, emboldened by a dare, snuck onto the estate grounds. He crept through the manicured hedges, the silence pressing in on him. He saw the gardener standing motionless among the statues, his back to the house. The boy called out, his voice a nervous tremor in the twilight. The gardener didn't turn. The boy stepped closer, his bravado fading into a chilling dread. He reached out and touched the man's shoulder. The figure turned, and the boy screamed. It was Daniel. His eyes were milky white, his skin stretched taut over his bones like dry leather. A silent, eternal scream was frozen on his lips. His mouth was stitched shut with a coarse black thread. But that wasn't the worst of it. From inside Daniel's partially open shirt, something writhed. A thick, pale root, like that of an ancient tree, pulsed with a faint, sickly light. It snaked out from his chest and plunged deep into the dark soil beneath his feet, anchoring him to the garden, to the house, to her. The boy scrambled backward, his mind shattering. He saw it then, the same grotesque roots connecting every single one of the statues to the earth. They were not just buried, they were planted. A living, breathing part of the estate's gruesome ecosystem. Inside the mansion, Jessie watched from the balcony, a serene smile on her half-ruined face. She raised a glass of wine, the liquid as dark as blood. The root in Daniel's chest pulsed in unison with her heartbeat. He was part of her collection now. Another eternal bloom in her garden of stolen lives, forever feeding her, forever hers. She took a slow sip, savoring the taste of borrowed time. The garden was quiet, its silent inhabitants standing guard under the cold moonlight. And the house, sated for now, seemed to sigh in contentment. Another few years had passed. Helena Montclair, though her name was now whispered with fear, remained a pillar of the community. Her beauty was unnatural, a timeless mask that never seemed to crack. Her parties were legendary, her charity donations lavish. But those who looked closely saw the truth. They saw how her eyes would linger on the young, handsome men who attended her galas. They saw the predatory hunger that flickered behind her polite smile. Another young man had recently caught her attention. A painter, full of life and passion, new to town and oblivious to its dark secrets. He was captivated by Helena, seeing her as a muse, a patron. He didn't see the web she was weaving around him, thread by invisible thread. He painted her portrait day after day, in the locked studio at the top of the house. He didn't notice how the other portraits on the wall seemed to watch him with hollow, despairing eyes. He didn't notice how, with each brush stroke, he felt a little weaker, a little more drained, while Helena seemed to grow more vibrant, her skin glowing with a stolen radiance. One night, as he put the finishing touches on the canvas, a profound weariness overcame him. He felt as if his very life force was being painted away, transferred from his body into the oil and pigment. He stumbled back from the easel, gasping. The portrait, it was moving. His own painted eyes blinked slowly, a tear of pure black paint rolling down the canvas cheek. He turned, his heart hammering against his ribs, to see Helena standing in the doorway. She was no longer the elegant woman he knew. Her form was shifting, her shadow elongating on the floor like a grasping claw. The air grew cold, thick with the scent of dust and decay. "It's a masterpiece," she purred, her voice a low, guttural sound that didn't belong to her. "You've given it so much of yourself." The painter tried to run, but his legs were like lead. He was trapped, not by walls, but by a chilling, invisible force that emanated from her. She glided towards him, her feet not quite touching the floor. "Youth is a currency, my dear artist," she whispered, her face now a swirling vortex of shadow and light. "And I still have so much to buy." He felt a cold touch on his shoulder. It wasn't her hand. He looked at the portrait, the painted version of Helena, standing behind his own image on the canvas, was slowly raising its hand. Her painted fingers curled around his painted shoulder. At the same time, he felt an icy grip in the real world, a phantom touch that began to pull the very soul from his body. His vision blurred. The last thing he saw was his own portrait, his painted face contorting in a silent, agonizing scream as it was drained of all color, all life, becoming as gray and empty as the others that lined the walls. The next morning, Helena Montclair descended the grand staircase, looking more radiant than ever. When asked about the young artist, she sighed dramatically. Such a restless soul. He left in the middle of the night, said he needed to find new inspiration elsewhere. She smiled, a strange, knowing glint in her eyes. But upstairs, in the locked studio, a new portrait hung on the wall, the paint still faintly damp. The artist's face was a mask of faded horror, his eyes empty voids, and on his shoulder, almost invisible in the gloom, rested a single, elegant hand of possessor's mark, a silent signature on a contract paid in life. The house was quiet again, waiting patiently for the next masterpiece. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more tales from the shadows.